Hello, in this recording, we're going to do a deep dive on bonus calculation equations in variable pay. And we're going to look at 2 out of the 5 options, which will be number 3 here and number 2. And these 2 equations are very similar to the ones that we see here. So number 2 is very similar to number 4. The only difference between the 2 is that we add the team performance in number 4, and the only difference between 3 and 5 is the same. We have an additional component, team performance. The reality is that most customers use either number 2 or number 3. And so we'll take some time to look at a worksheet with the exact same employee history for one employee. The only difference between the 2 worksheets is that we switched the bonus calculation equation so we can explain the difference between the 2. So let's get started and navigate to our worksheets and open the leading practice bonus calculation equation, which is the base times business plus individual. And a good introduction to this bonus calculation formula is, why is it leading practice? Well, the reason why it's leading practice is because it allows us to reflect in the calculation the different the weightings associated with each bonus plan. So here we can see Lucy was an individual contributor and was promoted manager during the year. And we can see when we click on manager that her section weights that are going to be used to calculate the payout, the total incentive payout, are different. As an individual contributor, she had 25% for her organization performance and 75 on individual. And then as she became manager, when we click, we can see that she's now 50-50. And we can also see that the breakdown of the business goals associated to each assignment she was in is different and is reflected in the calculation for each assignment. So let's take a moment to explain how everything rolls up from the assignment level to the entry, what we call the entry level, which is what we see when we open a worksheet here before we click on view details. So in variable pay, maybe 2 first bullet points. In variable pay, everything works from the assignment level to roll up to this entry level. And also everything is based on amounts. And this particular equation is a good example for it, and is very different from the other one, the one that has a multiplier. In the sense that we really work only with amounts. The other one too, but we'll have a tendency to show percentages more, which we'll see when we open the other worksheet. So let's do an example here. As an individual contributor, her prorated target incentive amount, which means probably her salary multiplied by her target bonus percent before we applied the proration for the assignment, was this. And after we multiply this by the time she spent in position, we have this. And this amount here is then broken down still at the assignment level. Everything we see here is connected and is working together. This amount here is then split between 25% for the organization performance. So she's got a target for this assignment on her organization performance of this amount, 25% of this, and 75% for individual performance. So 75% of this is this. Same thing for manager. We apply the same logic. We split the amount we see here into 50 and 50. And then what we see in these sections here as organization target and individual target is simply the roll-up of these amounts. So if we do this amount for the manager assignment plus this amount for the individual contributor assignment, then we get organization target equal this. Same thing for individual. If we take this for individual performance as an individual contributor and we sum the first amount with this, then we get individual target. Now, how do we get to the organization payout? The organization payout is simply the sum of all incentive payout amount for each business goal inside each assignment. So let's start from individual contributor. As an individual contributor, we took this amount that was the target for our organization performance, and we broke it down further. We assigned 2 business goals for this particular bonus plan as an individual contributor, weighted them 50% each. This gave us a goal basis, so this is 50% of this. And then the system administrator entered a percentage, an achievement percentage for each business goal. And so what we see here is basically this multiplied by this multiplied by this. And this gives us the incentive payout amount, and the sum of all incentive payout amounts in the organization performance is what we see here. So if we take this and we look at also the manager assignment here, the sum of both is what we see here. So we are here, we overachieved a little bit on the organization performance. So once we have this is the first component of this, and then we're going to sum this with this to get to this. So this is the sum of these two fields here. So now let's take a look at the individual payout amount here that is summed to the organization payout to get to the total incentive payout in this bonus calculation equation. So in the same logic then for organization target, we said individual target is the sum of these targets here at each assignment level. And so once we have this target, basically the manager is able to edit this individual payout percent. And so it's going to be, the calculation of this is going to be the individual target as defined by the section weights, multiplied by the individual payout percent edited by the manager, which has to be within the guidelines, which are based on the performance ratings. This gives us this. 14,854 multiplied by 1.3 gives us this, and this value is then summed to organization payout to make the total incentive payout. In an actual configuration, we would also add an override column in case the comp administrator can override this, and then do an if then rule. If there is an override, use this, otherwise use the override. But that explains how we get to this total incentive payout. So it's really reflecting the reality of the weightings of section based on the job level or the country or anything the customer would like to reflect. So this is the leading practice. Now let's look at the other formula. This other formula is a little bit more complex and a lot of people are puzzled by it for one reason, which is pretty simple to explain, but it needs some visualization to be explained better. So let's open and we'll see we'll have the same exact person with the same exact situation, starting situation, the same data, same proration. So we're looking at exactly the same in terms of the employee history. Yep, same exact employee history comes up to the same total prorated target. How is it different here? If we look at the entry level for a second, we can see that the organization performance is a little different. We have the data that is visible is a percentage. We'll come back to that in a second. And we see that here we don't have an individual target amount anymore. We just have the ratings, the guidelines, which were also in the other bonus calculation equation, and the data that we can edit here for individual payout percent. And so if we click on view details, what we'll see is that the individual section that we had in the other bonus calculation equation is completely missing. And we assume that with this equation, basically, we weight the organization performance at 100%. The only business case for not weighting it at 100% in this particular equation would be if we want to have a multiplier, like a bonus multiplier for everyone or for a particular bonus plan. So we overachieved, so we would like to have it at 105 or underachieve 95. But we'll assume that here we weighted at 100%. So that's already a big difference with the previous one because we don't have a split between organization and individual in terms of weighting of the section. We only weight this organization performance to be the same than total prorated target here. And as we can see, if we expand this section, the organization target is the same than the total prorated target we get here. So now that we've said that, how does it all work together? Well, it's actually the same than the previous equation, but what confuses, I think, a lot of consultants working with this particular equation is the fact that we say it's multiplied by business, multiplied by individual. So I think people are expecting that we're going to multiply the base by a percentage and then by so we're going to multiply this by a percentage, and the multiplication of both here, these two values, will then be multiplied by this to come up with this. It's true, but it's only partially true, because the system, the percentage that we see here is not native to variable pay. It's the division of this multiplied by this. So even with this equation that says base time, business time, individual, the system still works with amount to come up with the organization payout in a very similar way than in the previous bonus calculation equation, in the sense that we have a section weight, 100%, we take this, we split it into different business goals that are weighted, and then to come up with the organization payout here, we sum all incentive payout amounts for each assignment. This gives us this, and the sum of this plus this here gives us this. And this, and the percentage we see here, is actually only the division of this by this. So in terms of, for a customer, for visualization purposes, we tend to say it's good, it's better that to show the percentage, the actual percentage. But here's a case, and we're going to do it together, where that proves that the system actually works with numbers. So we have a situation here where we say, we created this new field, which is dividing this by this. And we say, okay, we're using base times business by individual. So knowing that, the customer, whoever is testing, is going to say, okay, what if I do 26,430 times 0.04 multiplied by 1.1576. Oh, I forgot the multiplier. Multiplied by 1.1576 multiplied by the individual payout percent, 1.3. Sorry, I'll do it again. 26,430.04 multiplied by 1.1576 multiplied by 1.3. We can see here that it gives us 39,774.038. And what we have on the worksheet is actually 39,775. And even with a rounding rule, we wouldn't get to 77.5 because we have a 0.03. And so that's why it's puzzling for many, is that even though we say we have a percentage here, the system actually, for the calculation of the total incentive payout in the standard column, is still using the organization payout calculated through amounts. So even though it says multiply by a percentage and by a percentage of business achievement and by individual, what we see in the standard column total incentive amount here is this plus multiplied by this. So assuming that organization performance is at 100%. So it's basically 30,000 596.15 times 1.3. And this gives us 74.9, which rounds up to 775. So this is where it gets tricky, is we want to use this formula in the sense that we want to use a percentage. So we calculate the percentage. The percentage is not native. We have to calculate it through a formula, a custom formula where we divide this by this. So all in all, this is all to say that if we're going to show, to reflect the purpose of the equation, if we're going to show a percentage, we have to make sure that the money format that is applied to these fields that are used in the equation is as long as possible. So maybe 4 or 5 decimals, so that the percentage is as accurate as possible here. Or another alternative would be to come up with a percentage, hide everything that is here, all the amounts, just only leave this percentage, leave the weight visible, the incentive payout percentage visible, hide all goal basis, actual result, incentive payout amount, hide these two here, and simply create a custom column at the end where we do total prorated target multiplied by this, multiplied by 1.3. In that way, we don't have any discrepancy. But if we're going to use the standard column provided by the system for total incentive payout and this bonus equation, we have to be really aware of the fact that even though it says times percentage of business achievement times individual, it's still using numbers in the back end. So I wanted to highlight this. Yep, because that's a question that comes back pretty often. And it kind of gives us an explanation also of the two bonus equations. I think one takeaway of this recording is that variable pay always works with numbers, starting at the assignment level and rolling up to the summary level, and is not working native with percentages. That's the one takeaway of this recording. Thanks, and I hope this was useful.